So we start recording again.
What?
Yeah, recording.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah, it's good to see you guys.
It's so good to see you. So good. Mm. Yeah, good to be present with you. From one holy land to another holy land.
Mhm.
Mm.
Mhm. Um, so um let's focus on a certain theme for this talk.
Mm.
I don't know if what you suggested a few days ago is what's alive and relevant,
Mm.
about femininity,
Mm.
or is it something else? You said,
Yeah.
what do you feel about that?
It's very alive. Actually, I think it even displays in what I'm wearing today. I thought I'd be very feminine and wear my African outfit because it's also the continent that I learned a little bit. I remembered a little bit what it was to be a girl, to be a woman. When I occupied a rather non-specific gender for a long time in my life. But so I dressed up this morning, I think, for this moment. Even with feathers, more feathers in my hair.
It's like embodying the feminine.
I think
Yeah.
it's for me it's fleshing out and embodying what I so often heard referred to along the spiritual path as the beauty way. And I didn't put much relevance to it. In fact, I quite rebelliously took myself out of that equation as a feminine. I grew up in London where there's a multicultural that offsets all elements belonging to sexual tribes or gender tribes, and I became something of an alien somewhere within all of that, not wanting to particularly display the beauty way of my feminine, but rather dressing it up as something that didn't even want to show up as anything that lined up as a particular way. So I'm coming home. That's why it's alive in me. I'm coming home to recognize my potent voice birthing of something in me, in my land. It's landing in me through the feminine, and I'm paying heed to her. I'm listening to her in me.
What is feminine for you?
So it's many levels and layers. And first of all, I would say I would feel into her physicality in me. I would start at the mother. So I came to be a mother quite late, I suppose, in the classic sense of where that becomes a choice, whether you actually birth a soul in through this avatar. And I was 37, and it initiated me into a feminine, being a feminine as nothing else. It rearranged even my neurological paths. I believe it. I'd been told this, by the way, by my Nigerian sisters. Again, I come to what I wear today, that culture, because they always questioned, are you a mother? Every season I arrived in my early young woman and maiden, they would say, are you a mother? Because to them, it addressed a certain passing into femininity that if I were to bypass that, I would not sit inside this alignment. And so I would say, as a simple answer for me, it is that I have the potential to birth, whether or not I bring that through in a physical way or as a creation field, as an imaginary project-driven feminine. Mm. And a caretaker. So as if I go down the mother path, it initiated me to being the most responsible, able to respond caretaker to, in my case, a child, a soul, and that element of me that was a rather carefree, selfish-driven artist on earth became the nurturer. And so that's perhaps the most significant.
So birthing, nurturing, and caretaking is like the feminine
Yes.
qualities, maybe to say.
Some of the core qualities. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how does it relate to the dress? These core qualities.
So the dress, the dressing into or the dressing up. So I walked out this morning into my given culture in Iceland, where actually from the beginning of the time when I came back here, I thought some days I feel myself lacking in the display of the beauty that is within the nurturer, the birther, the flow, the she who is the waters of creation. And when I see sisterhood that is wearing black, a very disciplined business-like suit of a display, it minimizes for me the remembrance of what it is to be that one that sits so close to nature. Her nature is a display of, for instance, something of I feel I am dressing to be nature today. I feel that the color and the arrangement of the soil and the seedlings on me remind me that I am the cedar, that well, actually, of course, the masculine very much is the cedar, but I am the caretaker of the seed and the caretaker of the incoming through me. And I believe beauty matters to that as well. Because it's displayed in nature so effectively. Every moment I care to look at nature, I'm reminded of the balance and the harmony that is within beauty. So I'm attending to that today in what I walk, as I walk through my culture. I'm caretaker to that.
When you share that, what comes to me is a very different perspective. It might be kind of like a devil's advocate to that association that you do. And a strong distinguishment between the cultural definition of masculinity, femininity, like that difference, comparing to actual nature, because in nature, except humans, almost every animal, it's like the male that is investing in beauty,
Mm.
like genetically. It is investing in extra features beyond the minimum, uh, just what's effective. Like, like the peacock
Mm.
is a great
Yeah.
example.
Yeah.
Usually in birds, the female is just grayish more, and the male is more colorful. And
Mm.
not only in birds, though. And in a way, humans is the only one that it is perceived oppositely,
Mm.
but actually not also in every culture. And I think we are very used to, like, habituated to the specific culture that we are in for many generations,
Mm.
that we are conditioned to perceive it as that's how it is,
Mm.
rather than I remember I saw a documentary about a tribe in Africa that the male, they are actually the ones that make up and dress up, and they are associated with the beauty, and the females, they are kind of choosing through the beauty presentation of the males. So, I mean, other variations are possible, yet we are with a habit of many generations, and therefore conditioned to associate it in this way, that beauty is feminine. But perhaps the path of beauty is actually the masculine, and the feminine path is more the effective, the efficient, the one that takes care and nurturing. So just takes care of the survival basic aspect, and even if I take it to the ancient prehistoric tribal times, so the females were more the center of the tribe. They take care of the kid, and the male, they are more on the outer circle, either hunting or fighting, or like, and they go to expeditions more. So they, um, and the female more invest then on communication, on between each other, definition of worth, um, and also the basic elements to caretaking of the kids, but also of the tribe. And the males, they are expanding, seeing what's beyond the familiar zone, beyond the little range of familiarity of, or if we parallel it into the psyche, it's like that part that dreams beyond the reality, the mundane reality, that
Mm.
is also important to maintain and sustain our well-being. But there is a whole other layer that we can associate as the soul that can go beyond. And this is a suggestion
Mm.
of a perception
Mm.
that I think makes sense in a certain way. And it contradicts the the habituatized narrative of the distinguishment and definition of the gender, like
Mm.
male female polarity archetypally.
Mm. I Wow. It makes me wonder, even
Mhm,
though I have a very strong reference to, again, a culture in West Africa, that there is no lesser display of attire, beauty in the masculine, particularly
mhm,
at certain gatherings, than the female.
mhm,
It's worn slightly different.
mhm,
It's um, and but I wonder. So, given that my belief structure is that I am certainly part animal, that I am certainly part of that peacock structure in my kin, my animal kinship, and I watch how they operate. I wonder if, so the feminine of the human race, did she want to align herself more into the spotlight? Did she want, was there a given need genetically for her to become more of the display, of the focus, of the narrative by dressing it up? It's a piece of theater after all of this. Our skin does not display as much as the feathered ones or even the furred ones. So we're fairly neutral as a given species that comes in. Then we have a choice. Do we weave ourselves the rainbow color, wear a decoration of feathers? And so we have a choice whether we want to initiate ourselves into that theater of being the display of beauty beyond our physical selves or not. And as you spoke about the women, in that sense of being the caretakers simply of the food and the children, and so why be the show and tell? I do remember my grandmother virtually wearing the same attire every day. She was quite pointless. She was not making a point of her femininity. She was actually, as I remember her, the generation where she was fully satisfied with almost an invisible role of being primary caretaker. And she was fully signed into that and actually rejected a display of going out there to meet the other tribes and dressing it up. She fundamentally chose the other. And that was still actually very much alive in my village. It maybe, and my grandfather was much more the one who met the outside world and took care to meet it as a chief, the chief of our tribe. So it's not so far ago in Iceland culture, at least my given culture, that it was more that way.
Yeah, yeah. And perhaps a suggestion of perception would be then perhaps a woman that is connecting to her be her path as like her femininity as radiation of beauty. Perhaps this is actually the more masculine element that is starting to integrate itself into a subtler wholeness, perhaps. And it's not necessarily a genetic, like it, maybe you suggested in the beginning that women are in humans, in animals, suddenly they are genetically it's opposite, but perhaps it's purely cultural aspect or like yeah, it's like we are in a way, I think, with our ability to be conscious to ourselves, to have self-definition, to have an ego, to define that, we are also able to transcend the general definition, the genetically conditioned definition, and to come to a finer integration, more of knowing ourselves as the essence of that, of self. And still, as that essence of self, we are happening through a certain body, a vehicle, an avatar, or how to call it. And that body is masculine or feminine, and with certain features and with certain history or her story that shapes its persona, her habit of how to be in society. And for the journey to come to recognition of the essence, a clearer recognition of the essence, then there is the exploration of the polarity of the habit. So as a man or as a male, it's the female features and so on. And maybe that's why the in that essence, the femininity starts to be associated with beauty. Like if I go to the esoterics, for example, in I what I hear today a lot, it's like when people define the masculinity, it's a lot about structure and um, other qualities as well, but specific like structure and focus and action and like the survival aspect as well, comparing to the feminine that is um, can be irresponsible, can be like um, can change her mind. It's like not focused. In a way, I find that paradigm a little bit nurturing female narcissism, because it's like, okay, a woman can be like a child and not adult in a way, unless she wants to think she's adult in certain moments and so on. And there is a certain theme that it has some elements that are true, but some elements that are covering up. But when I go to the more ancient esoteric, even like I heard many times women say like, I want to meet a man that is a Shiva, or I want to connect to my own Shiva, and that is an association of being like effective in like practical and but actually the Shiva is the pure consciousness. The Shakti is the form, is where the ab- purely abstract awareness that have no form, then the Shakti is the form and all the expressions of consciousness. And yes, it's also a dance, but it's also the practicality and it's also the survival. And it is like the more tangible sensorily, comparing to the tangibility of absoluteness, of the, the absolute presence of awareness that is experienced in um, like samadhi, which is more the Shiva aspect. But the idea specifically about form, for example, structure, limitation, these are actually feminine qualities comparing to the masculine that is um, either both reformed and also transformed. It's like, or transformation itself. It's not even to another form, but there is no form for it because it's the abstract essence that is formless of pure awareness. And with that, then there is the association of unconsciousness, which is more feminine quality in that sense. I think the genitals can more reflect on that, the mystery of, oh, what is in there. And for the male, it is exposed and actually revealing something new, whether I want it or not. It's just showing itself. And especially in arousal, it's like, here I am. And and I, I do see a lot of um, um, I mean, in the fashion of these days, of these last years, especially, a lot of twist of the archetypes, like what is it masculine, what is it feminine, and going further from either the esoteric meaning, but also with recognition of shadow aspect. Like I find it very common in the third and fourth wave of feminism that associate immorality with masculinity
Mm.
and kind of keep in the shadow the immorality of femininity, which is just like they're both. It's not that one is more or less, it's just different way of the same, like two sides of the coin in a way.
Mm.
So I do even another example. If I go again back, I remember when I was studying uh, Taoism. So the yin and the yang, the femin, feminine and masculine. Also, for example, parallel to water and fire, feminine water, masculine fire. When I was studying Kabbalah, it's exactly the opposite. The feminine is fire, the masculine is water. So which one is true?
Mm.
Obviously, like they are
Mhm.
contradicting each other, but in a way, it's like it can be like that and it can be like that. It's possible perspectives, but these are, it's just culturally conditioned. We are defining the gender in a way according to the culture. So to come to something more true, we don't need maybe to parallel feminine and masculine with fire and water. Maybe it's just like two different dimensions. They are orthogonal to each other, and
Yeah.
same also with characteristics of like persona.
Yeah. Wow. I'm suddenly having this overwhelming notion that if I give myself the license, which I could so often in the multiculture of London, where basically
Mhm,
no one is watching to determine what you are from day to day. So there's license to be everything virtually. And so given that it is that scale of being, you are your only watch, your only keeper. So I
yeah.
could play quite freely with those notions, and um, I could see the variations starting to melt actually around me, and it gave me great ease of being, for I did not want to define myself. I in some innocent way I wanted to play at being all of it.
Mhm,
Also as a storyteller,
mhm,
I didn't want to define myself as personas within the story, for it was far more alive for me seeing it as the storyteller who could switch the story around
mhm,
and go above the story.
mhm,
So play at being God a little bit, play at being a God driven, I was obviously, it was invested with a lot of ego at that point, but I
okay,
wanted to play at seeing the theater that was myself through different perspectives, even daily. I
mhm,
wasn't extremely brave at this. I certainly wasn't the most colorful display of this at that point.
mhm,
But my notion was something of what you are now revealing to me. This notion that I am the ocean, as opposed to being this particular river of this temperature and of this element, or being the fire that's on the, I don't want to be simply fire. I might find myself at moments of the day even switching from being one element to the other and exploring the alchemy
mhm,
of sitting at my deck. Another analogy that I come to quite a lot within my particular way of moving through my story is that I'm on the deck of my spaceship or my craft. In this avatar, I'm craft. I'm a version of whatever I tune up and down volumes and rates of motion and rates of beingness. If I allow myself to take care, to be in focus about, even now there's another element to this, being the caretaker, I come back to the feminine, to watch what environment my avatar is in at any given moment, and be actually the kindest or most harmonious or most effective change maker in whatever range I display myself. I mean, that's actually a far more alive opportunity for me to live inside that, where I can be all of this. But I need the environment in a certain way, don't you feel? I mean, this is, I guess, I suppose it's a question, maybe to bring Nemantas into it. It's like, am I allowed? Is it rather rebellious of me rebelling against, if I'm not caretaking enough, that I switch from one agenda to another? Let's use the words feminine or yin or yang, that I consciously change that paradigm to suit what is happening inside and outside at that moment as I become the field of one. Is that too rebellious? Can I be all of this? How will it show up?
The body itself is finite and it's limited. So I find it effective to distinguish like layers of being. There is the essence of self, which is all of it. And in a way, from a fifth person perspective, like there is only one I and it's happening through all of us. So yeah, I am all, yet what about these unique expressions? That is now like speaking as I that is a relative I to another I that is a relative I, which then I can call you. Yeah, yeah, I and I. Yet to make it more clear than I and you. Um, and then yeah, we can have third. Like we evolved the language in order to refine expression. And it's part. I think it's part of the beauty, the the ability for us to evolve the language. Um, Yet in that, yeah, I can be caretaking. Um, I think that can be in a more masculine or more feminine way. The masculine in today's society, which is again culturally conditioned, is often the provider and the one who sacrifices. The possibilities to focus on that connection, and a woman is carrying the baby, breastfeeding, and it's like giving the birth, of course, and it's the main character in the baby's life for the first while. So it's more like a process of gradual separation for the child then to become a being by itself. And in the beginning, they start as one, comparing to the masculine that it is more a choice. That's like I'm committing myself to become part of it, and with time, it's merging more and being it's different approaches, but both are caretaking in a way. So language can be refined, and these nuances um, can be better described. But there is a polarity. It's not exactly the same. It's not that it doesn't matter what body we are and that it does not affect. I think it does affect. It's not just the body, it's also subtler, like I think a soul is relevant as well as another layer, intermediate layer between the absolute self and the human animal. I think a soul is as well relevant because for some people, an experience of being in the wrong body is relevant. And so a soul is needed to describe that so that one can be um, on a journey to authenticity. Um, but eventually, the relation between the human animal and the soul is not as significant comparing to their relation to the absolute self. Like they're both relative still, so it's like tiny in comparison to the absolute. But
I
it's part of,
wonder,
yeah.
yeah, I
It just
wonder, Aviv, yeah.
Yeah, it's one complexity. This is what I try to say. But yeah.
I'm curious to, I'm curious for you maybe to expand on, so there is a notion in me, it's quite recent and it comes as part of me engaging more with life as a sensual sexual being, as a feminine avatar who is engineered, that is engineered to receive. So my understanding is that I am in more and more harmony actually in this, this season of life, since I started just putting some attention to allowing my receptive nature, as in I have a vehicle engineered to receive. And in the very physicalness of me, the fact that I denied this for most of my life, that engagement didn't feel, I don't want to get too much into another topic of safety and not safety, but it didn't feel so ripe in me. It certainly wasn't something that I felt trusting in. And so I limited the flow of currency, the flow of accepting, inviting, that the open embrace of me as a feminine was haltered. It was blocked. And so I find the more that I allow for that, the healthier my system is. And actually and my chickens like this. I know there's not a chicken story going on, but they're really wanting to come in with that. I'm more harmonious if I recognize that part of my anatomy. And actually I'm therefore like almost more turned on to life, you could say. That I even view the masculine form around me as more alluring, that I want to engage more with that you have an engineering piece called lingam that I may receive. And I know that's a whole nother topic, but it matters to my feminine nature as a principle of just running a currency, negative, positive, negative, that aspect.
Yeah, I think you're touching something very important with what you say, but I also think you're mixing two things that are separate. Both of them are important, but they are not the same thing. And like I want to distinguish between, yes, there is the um, the presence and the connection to sense through our sexual organs, that and with a polarity that um, how to say nourish each other, or like there is a certain magnetism in it.
Mm.
Yet, like a polarity that is complementary in some way. Yet, the association of it with you as a feminine being the receptive one, this I find a highly culturally conditioned perception.
Mm.
Because if I expand the possibilities of association, I do see in this culture, yeah, the feminine is receiving and even being penetrated, and how from that the association of the masculine then is penetrating and also sometimes conquering, and also sometimes the one that is the one who crosses the boundary,
Mm.
and it connects to the victim villain dynamic, also association archetypally. I can see a perception that the the feminine is the consuming, is the swallowing. The male
Mm. Mhm.
is actually vulnerable because it is taken by
Mhm.
in disappearing. Part of me is disappearing. I don't know if I will receive it back. I'm eaten. Like
Wow.
it can be as
Ooh.
well. And it
Wow.
is there. It
Yeah.
is there exactly as the more familiar stories there. Both of them are
Mhm.
present. Just one
Mhm.
is more acknowledged and the other one is in the shadow.
Yeah.
But both of them are there.
Mm.
And this is another conditioning of the, the genderization that is culturally conditioned and does not allow clearer perception of the essence of the sexes,
Mm.
as I see it,
Mm.
of course.
Mm.
Um, and it is so the the attraction between the polarities. This is one thing, and it is part of us, and it is part of our. It's actually a source of vitality. Like
Mm.
we get so much energy that can be either ecstatically orgasmic or either uh, traumatizing. It depends how we relate to that energy, but it is intense. It is very potent,
Mm.
and it can be used in many ways. Yet the the conditioned, like automatically conditioned association of these polarities with these characteristic, with these memes of like this
Mm.
is receptive, this is penetrative, and then associations that like psychologically we do upon it. This I find actually I in the last years I start to see danger in it, because
Mm.
I see how it can be twisted to such degree that it is used like in identity politics and so on,
Mm.
and that it becomes like I see with the feminism, like the third wave and the fourth wave even more. It takes the beautiful essence of feminism that is was in the beginning. It becomes exactly the opposite now of what it was meant to be.
Mm.
It's like it's actually not working on equality of opportunity in society. It's actually becoming um, a feminine uh, instead of patriarchy. It becomes
Mm.
a matriarchy, but of the same qualities that are um, how to say suppressing the polar stereotype of the group that is generating that hierarchy, that
Yeah.
moral hierarchy
Yeah.
of also. So it loses its essence and it becomes a tool that is pathologic, socially pathologic. Um, Yet in
Yeah.
nature, we can find, I think, and the beauty that you brought in the beginning, I think this is an extremely interesting one because every animal beauty, I maybe some animals not, but almost every animal, maybe some fish and stuff, but I think every mammal, beauty is associated with the male. Every mammal, every bird, and I think even maybe reptile, as far as I know. And yeah, maybe there is a certain exception, but generally it is associated with the male. And I find it mind opening, like stretching the habit a bit to
Yeah.
wider perspective.
Wow. I'm not. This is having such such a stirring inside of me.
Yeah.
Somewhat, but really quite uncomfortable to think that my opening notion to this day and to our conversation was the beauty way. I am the feminine, I'm the caretaker. And all of a sudden, just feeling into the last pieces that you're bringing in is like, I feel I could be, I am invested with the potential of also being almost like, I don't want to use the word vampire, but like, so I'm the alluring one who's the Venus flytrap, the consumer of energy from that which I can, yeah, wow. Oh, it's a really sticky feeling inside of me if I am that, if that is my motivation for dressing up my finest feathers as a feminine. Is it that I want to call to me the seed giver? Because if I were an animal, I'd be the opposite. I'd be the not so alluring brown, gray feathered feminine fowl who has the masculine dancing around in his full display. What is that? Where has that rearrangement got me, positioned me as a feminine? Am I no longer, okay, so now I haven't even configured this, but am I no longer trusting to be the anonymous one, truly the caretaker who falls almost into the environment, almost camouflaged? Because that's what a lot of the feminine, the female in my tribe of wild are. They're almost non-visible. It's as if they're so assured of their nature that they need to display nothing. And I know that, wow. So have I as a human feminine started to have to amplify my calling because I'm the succubus? I'm the one who like, again, I say I hardly want to acknowledge this in me, for I don't think that it is in me in a conscious way that I want to consume, that I even want to be more alluring, for I'll get more attention, and therefore that's an energy exchange that, have I license to be that? Have I an agreement to be one that sometimes gets attention, more attention than And actually, I know that I have done that, not in a sexual way, but I rather like being a center point at some points in my life to get attention.
Mhm.
And somehow I feel I have more license to do that as a feminine. Do I?
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm reading into that. I'm not sure. But wow.
Well, if you look at clothing stores in the mall, you see the variety for men and for women. It's a
Mhm.
huge difference. Um,
And all that makeup and all that, I mean, I don't wear any, not any longer, but yeah, it's display, huh? It's
and from
inviting attraction.
yeah, from evolutionary psychology perspective, like there is no question. It is from that. It is signals of um, reproductivity, like that will trigger attraction in the like yeah.
And it's
But yeah,
power, right? It comes to a power game. Am I
exactly.
playing a power game of getting this attention? And even as I can, wow, I become such a player. I don't like that word either. I like none of this. Like all of this, I have a huge rejection in my body to acknowledge that this might be my motivation for dressing up this day.
Well, also the male animals in the animal kingdom, like why would they grow these feathers? It's like showing off. It's like to have the power to or the opportunity to see the female.
Right.
Yes, it is very focused on that. With us humans, we have learned to lie so sophisticatedly and repress,
Mm.
and then create a whole reality on top of that repression. So we can
Mhm.
play as if not, like we can dress up and hide the genitals and play as if we don't have genitals under, but we do have. Like there is no animal that put clothes and have shame. It's a certain absurd, but we are playing it so deeply that in most places it would be illegal to walk naked,
Mm.
like stuff like that. And yet, even though we are all born like that, and like there is no physical risk. I mean, as a male, maybe if I'm very aroused, I can take someone an eye out if it goes into, and if I have a very thin, uh, yeah, I'm joking, but it's like there is no, it's not like harming physically. It's just psychologically. But what is that psychological part? It's
Mm.
just questioning a cultural condition. That's all. And and yeah, so it's taking that showing off of males in the animal kingdom and then um, doing it. I think you're right with that. It is a power thing. It gives power because it is not orientated really to reproduction. It's not that every male that will be attracted to the feathers or dress or makeup is for you a potential seeder.
Mm.
There are other motives. So the honesty there starts to be not as direct like in the animals, that
Mm.
it's more clear there. But we have the possibility of choosing not to be honest with ourselves and then forgetting about it and not being conscious of it and so on. So it's becoming just more complex.
Mm.
It yet does not contradict the clear foundations that we can just look at animals and see. And this is again an evolutionary psychology perspective, which I find much depth and clarity in it
Mm.
relative to many approaches. But it's a suggestion as well.
Mm. Yeah, I I feel to bring a question or a thought to my
Mhm.
beloved here, because it just so happens that this is the only relating that has brought to me a very clear sign from a lingam holder, a masculine, that he may not always see me fit energetically in the exchange of, and here he breaks a very specific paradigm that I have grown up with, which is that the masculine is always in readiness. If the female, being me in this story, says, I'm open for engagement, I will receive you, that somehow there needs to that there pre-exists a given desire in him. He's so sovereign, and now I'm going to use this word, which I like very much at this point in life, because it's teaching me about energy exchanges. His sovereignty checks in with himself more so than any being that I have been with, that there is not a given. It's not a given yes, it's not a given no. It's a let's check in on where you are, beloved, in your display of your feathers at this moment, and coming in with some, frivolous, as I sometimes am. I'm quite frivolous. I'm in that kind of, here we come. I'm flashing my colors and I'm expecting something. I have an expectation that that's going to be met. And I know better now. I'm getting wise to my own energy that I'm running at that moment to check in and go, there may be a need for me to reappraise what my motives are. Because this is sacred territory. This is sacred exchange. Whether it leads to actual, physical engagement or not, it's already sacred. You're in the sacred realms of the ultimate give and take, the ultimate receiving and giving, or minus plus. It can be simply a chemical equation, but it is so much more than that. Of course, to me, this is divine territory. So, better late than never, I am reappraising, being more able to respond and responsible for what I'm driving as a currency. And what am I giving? What am I, what, yeah. So let's let go of previous notions of what was what on this level of engagement. And I may find myself becoming much more accountable to what my state is, and actually, shaking off also some of the, because this is energy exchange, I think, is one of the topics of a new, shall we say, birthing in that I may do as a feminine. How is my energy exchange on earth to my son, to my father, to the masculine, to all the masculine, of course, to my sisterhood, but we're speaking of this now as the feminine to the masculine. And yeah, I'm happy to have had some lessons, and I wonder if you want or have any words to that.
Yeah. What came to that, that it seems to me that the way I grow was something out of ordinary, because I see people out of their feeling, like, it's like, and it goes to the conditioning part, that we are conditioned as a males, females, or as a couples, how things has to be, because now, if we are boyfriend and girlfriend, there is certain way of being because that's the condition. Then there is marriage, and then children and parenting. And that I believe, not most of the time, I would not like to believe in it, but some of the time we are conditioned to the degree that we are not checking in either with our feelings and senses in our body, or it's like the opposite of it. So in between there is a balance, but out of it is just instinctual unconsciousness. So let's say it doesn't matter if it's male or female wants to now have sex because there is an urge for a man. Let's say now he wants his wife, and his wife is like doing completely her mind is on heart is in different space, and then again not sensing in the situation, going with the instinct, and then the receiving part of that impulse, it's again conditioning or going into senses and either stating the factual reality of my being that now sorry, no, I don't, or I'm conditioned because, oh, my husband wants now to have sex and I have to do it because that's what good wife does, or that's what good girlfriend does. So the point I'm making, I think, is that yeah, in all of this dynamic we lost sense of just touch with reality, like common reality, my personal reality, and then common reality, because there is this dome on top that says conditioning, and that's the way to go. And when I'm not conscious of at least being aware of my feelings, so then I'm just a automatic semi human, semi some robot kind of device that just suits the bigger purpose, but not that bigger purpose of a nature, but purpose that of the entity or being that is, as we refer the last talk, the cancer of the nature. It's like so yeah, and this dome is that cancer is putting that dome, that conditioning. So yeah, I yeah, it feels if I would continue it would be now too deep and too much. So yeah, that's what came out just of the last thing. And I don't know if I can continue because I just made a little notices, and just listening to make me remembering some things that I already contemplated and learned that like there is two senses that cannot be fooled. Like that's what I heard, and it stayed with me, and it makes so much sense, which is eyes and ears. It can be optical illusion, it can be audible illusion, it can be some sensual, it can be something hot but actually it's cold, and you can interpret in different ways. But there is smell and taste that we cannot fool ourselves. If it stinks, it stinks, like that's the ultimate. So I'm coming with this because it goes along with these feathers and being colorful, and thing that even the smell that woman chooses, the smell, it's not because like how I received it at the time. It was in a lecture so beautifully made. I don't know if I will be able to repeat it in a way, but the thing is that women have a usually sweet smell on them, and males put like sharp, like like and but if we consciously don't do this for our own need, whatever it is, then it's unconscious that with this smell I will attract a woman. Yeah, and with this smell I will attract the man, so that even the man as such he's not a tough whatever dude, because he is attracting with his smell something that is tough and oof, and woman does the opposite, you know. So she's just like smells sweet, but then she should attract other women, not men, you know. So it's like uh,
If she smells sweet, she attract ants.
not, that's another, or bear or something.
Yeah. Butterfly.
And another thought that came to me about beauty is that you refer to nature as example of male being more beautiful, but
Yeah.
just as love or truth, beauty is another concept in our head.
Yeah.
That so when we look at from technical perspective, why is goose more beautiful, or why this not pelican, the
Peacock.
peacock is and if you look not from human judge or
Mhm.
evaluation system, but you look just from concrete or whatever solid technical view, it's
Yeah.
complexity. Males are more
Mhm.
complex, and
Mhm.
we just identify it, oh, it's more beautiful, because if you have a white piece of paper and you have just maybe two lines with different colors, you will still say, oh, this is more beautiful. But if you know, and it's because nature does it in Fibonacci sequence and all the patterns that, you know, is just therapy, just seeing some shapes or colors. So that the beauty is complexity. And then it brings me back to, but okay, males complexity, usually it's not in their looks, like this is complexity in the
Yeah.
females look, yeah, all these things.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
in male complexity, it's mind. And if we would be octopuses, our
In
mind
our culture. Yeah.
would be these colors on our
Yeah.
skin. Our mind would
Yeah.
refer what is in our mind. So
Mhm.
yeah, so that also came yeah.
Yeah, it's tricky. This last thing you say, I agree with you. It is complexity, and maybe even to parallel it, it's like the male are generally more tending to be specialized, like extremely good in something on the cost of being not good in many other things. Like more
Yeah.
men goes to extreme directions than the like women are more normative in average, like more tending towards the center of the bell curve. More men are in the extremes. Um, and it relates, yeah. So investment in new pathways, and it is the growth of consciousness to new routes. And then the feminine part is defining it and giving it a form, integrating it as part of consciousness, and that it's not just like a satellite out there that is unrelated. Um, but then in human culture, it especially now in the modern time, it's like I do agree with you originally with the human animal. Yeah, the mind is the same idea. Our intelligence, it's like the tail of the peacock. I definitely agree with that. I see it like that as well. Yet it's not purely masculine now in the expression, not in essence, but in expression. Um, I do see also some women are more um, uh, even sapiosexual or drawn to intelligence, and some men are actually more into stuff that is with smaller complexity of intellect and larger complexity of um, other sensory nuances or behavior rather. Um, So it's difficult to genderize that piece. But yeah, if to extract the essence, I can agree with you. It's just large generalization that is quite equally true.
Not to add to that, it's you know, in any case, we are being attracted to our polar opposite, you know, and we are complex beings with complex, you know, at least left right balance, few levels of that different things. So you know, so yeah, so that's just gives all this variation possible.
I wonder, you know, I wonder, struck by the thought that, so it seems to me ultimately I'm wanting to marry myself. I'm wanting to marry my polarities, my orientation of masculine, feminine, yin and yang, or all that has been put into word about that dynamic within me. And it seems to me the more that I, in all my past lives, have signed into the story, have accepted the programming that I am one or the other, and I try to, and I sign in and tick off the various ways in which I am one or the other. The more that I've propagated this story of division within myself, of, you know, I'm even told many stories about how I am more residing in one part of my beautiful brain than the other. And I've bought into this. It's like I've eaten up and munched up that story, untold lives. And I want to let go of that story. You know, the more that I feel into this conversation, the more I want to marry up all of these alignments or adjustments inside of me, come to clarity as much as I can in the complexity of both my levels of perception through my eye. I want my eye to eye, to look into all of this, and my ouch as a feminine much of the time, and actually it's been in relation, I think, to, you know, in present company, it's been in relation sometimes to the way that your clarity of mindset works, both you and Amanda's, is that I've arrived at junctions which were very uncomfortable because I haven't brought the light of consciousness to that part of my equation. And I've had to go through several deaths and minor re-emergences within myself to claim the adventurer in me that wants to know and see and feel aligned with all of this. Maybe the ultimate fear is to become nothing. So then who am I after that? Will I belong to any tribe of any suggested display of beauty or sensuality, sexuality? You know, is that my ultimate fear about myself, that when this license of the inner marriage of all that I am comes to being, and I walk that path in the church of life, I walk down and I meet my maker, then who am I after that? Do I belong to anything or anyone? And am I just all alone and unrelatable? Or maybe that's a fear in me up until now.
I don't know. It does not make sense so much to me. Like, for you as someone to become nothing, I find it actually somewhat covertly grandiosing. It's technically not, because nothing is something absolute. Something is something relative, and also everything is absolute. So it's like, yeah, the everything and nothing, I can see that relation. But as something or someone, to become nothing, maybe, well, I think largely, again, as a generalization, in the spirit of this time that we are now, more women are confronting humbling in the intersexual dynamic, like avoiding some humility, like this. Also for me, like what you shared before. Yeah, I met women that I've never expressed an interest, for example, to be with them, and they say, "Okay, I decided I allow you to be with me, like sexually," and it's like, but who asked me even? Or women that do express their openness for something like that and then get angry at me that I'm not initiating.
Mm.
But what about what I want? It's not that I suppose, because I'm a male, I suppose to fit to that function. And that can be very um, I see some women can get very frustrated from that, receive it as violence just because I'm not initiating, because I'm not trying, because I'm not like not showing interest. And it is an absurd, but it shows how much common is like the feminine narcissism. It's like this how much women are encouraged to grow in that bubble that every man's supposed to want them, and they first of all they supposed to say no, and it's
Mm.
like a narcissistic jail that does not allow them to expand the perception and see more what really is, and also to know what they really want instead of this automatic rejection of what reality have to offer them, and only go to the most grandiose idea, but it's just an idea and it's non-realistic, and it's preventing what really is there for them as gifts. I see it very common. Again, it is a generalization and each someone is more unique. Way more men receiving rejection. This is very humbling. This is normal for men. It's like it's
Mm.
rare for a man to be not rejected when he interacts with a woman, not to say ever. This is barely existing. Um, and it is the spirit of this time. It's not always like that, but it is such education that is encouraged, and I see that very much reflects on a feminine shadow that is not met in our culture at these days, and is waiting for it and needing, because I see how it becomes quite destructive. And um, yet all this humbling is not making me nothing. It's just making me not something grandiose. It's just like I'm just another person. I'm one of these million guys that wanted to have something with you, but you rejected. It's like I'm just an average. It's the mediumness, I think, that is intimidating. It's
Mm. Mm.
the growing out of this narcissistic need to be the most the most beautiful in the world, the most lovable in the world, the most amazing in something or for someone. But
Mm.
but we are all just people, and the world can do with us or without us, and we can all have an impact, but we are just one of some billions.
Mm.
And there is something humbling in it that can intimidate a certain aspect, yet there is also something liberating in it. So I can be more authentic and in a less polite language, just not give a fuck. Like I can just, but it's also more interesting because when I'm more authentic, I get to explore a new path of reality that have never been explored, and I'm not submitting to a classic conditioning of stereotypical archetypal play.
Mm.
So I find it more interesting and contributing to the general intelligence. And there are many, like, so many associations like that. You mentioned the right and left brain. Yeah, like, so the right one is the feminine and the left one is the masculine. Actually, from my research in cognitive science, it actually shows more the opposite, but it's not exactly even the opposite. It's just we all have both,
Mhm.
and but it's another, like, conditioning of the stereotypization of the gender and making, like, this stereotypical jail, basically, that
Mm.
we're
Mm.
supposed to submit. Another one that is I find very powerful is when I met the Maori culture. Um, so we also associate the dimension of spirit and matter. Matter is from the word mother, and
Mm.
spirit, it's like the pure consciousness, like as the masculine and feminine. But in the Maori culture, it's opposite. The male are actually the rising up of matter, the erection of the planet is through the male body. Like, it's the dancing, the connection to the body is more masculine thing than feminine in that culture. And the spirit, the absolute, is the feminine. We are in the cosmic womb, the universe.
Mm.
So, and this is another perspective, but again, it is, I think it's good to integrate all this perspective and to extract the essence and not to try to project the genderization on the spirit or on the psyche or on the deeper layers of the psyche. Yes, there are some differences in the brain, definitely.
Mm.
Testosterone creates growth of the top lobe, and for women there are some areas in the side lobes that are more evolved, and like there are some nuances, some more stuff,
Mm.
but it's more and of course every variate, like every individual is a specific version, and it's interesting to go and define these nuances. Yet i, I think in how today's gender is defined, it's very much keeping a shadow, and I think actually especially of the feminine, because
Mm.
the immorality is more associated with the masculinity.
Mm.
So I think it's exactly reflecting that the feminine immorality, this is exactly what is so much avoided, and this is what needs to be integrated for a certain balance. It's part of the equality.
Mm. I Two very different ideas come up when you're talking. One is that I believe very much in the notion of me still being a child in a playful state.
Mm-hmm.
So how I see that now is we're given usually by our grown-ups around us dolls to play with, and we set up, I had my Barbie dolls, I only had Barbie dolls. I didn't have a Ken. I didn't have a masculine, actually. I never got the Ken version. Bummer. So, one of my Barbies had to be a Ken, and that was fun. And and we also, I remember the language of me as a child with my playmates.
Mm-hmm.
And again, you see, oh, there's a word, playmate. All of a sudden I'm taking, I'm going into kind of a playmate in a sexual way. Wow, how interesting, a playmate. But playmates, truly to be a playmate as I was a child, is We at any given day or part of a moment that we designate as playtime can take any character. We can make our Barbie doll any character, and the language is all to I'm trying to remember exactly how it goes, but we would say minns so we have a word for like minns means not even I, it's like that which is I today is this. And it's a very specific way of relating through not an identification or a classification of you as anything, because you don't yet hold an identity. You're not that precious about being an identity when you were a child, as I remember it, because you're still at play. Everything is open. It's a sand pit of pit's not such a nice word, but it's a landscape unevolved, unexplored until you discover a way at that given moment to make it become something. So this exists for a long time for me as a child on Earth. Also, I was given a really harmonious equation, which was not a playground. It wasn't a designated even playground the way the culture puts it today for a child. Mine was nature. So mine was beach, mountain, water. So for the longest time, I would resurrect myself and die to myself. Every day I would go to sleep not knowing who I would be the next day, because it depended on how I felt. And so what I want to say is that I long for that state as a human in my evolution, because I think it makes me more alive to the potential. I think even though I realize that the adults or the grown-ups of the human race like to categorize things more and more, and I felt always closed in by that. As I grew up, I tried to become more what is classified as a feminine kind of, the butterfly, try to just escape being defined and go into, what you said, specializing as a masculine might be a masculine trait considered. I didn't want to specialize or even be called anything, because I wanted to have an option to change my mind. And
Looks like you were lacking of a conditioning.
I liked conditioning. Oh, fuck. I'm going to use the word fuck again in this. Woo! I liked conditioning. Yeah.
It's exploration of many characters, and therefore maybe you're specializing in different personas, outfit. It can be maybe like that.
Yes, very much.
And on that note, it came to me a few times, but I didn't want to interrupt. But like, it seems that, we do know her well. And what I noticed, she is more than anyone else, is willing, like if someone comes with an opinion, it can be completely irrational. It can be personal to, she will take it in and dress it up and see how it will fit, maybe not even for a day or two, but for some weeks. And then at some point, like, no, I'm not sure, that's not me. And in our whole story, it was also, we all put it on, and and like, that it can be some truth to that, but there isn't. It's just like, you cannot say that t-shirt is good for winter. No, it's too cold, so it doesn't fit. So yeah, so and she has this thing of non-conditioned minds state or set that is so flexible and fluctuating and flexible and fluent and fluttering and flying and so many
It's flop flop.
So yeah, and I think most of us as a society is lacking it. And I know myself, I am that to some degree, because I can relate to it, that someone tells me about me something, and I'm not going into defensive mode like, no, I think this about me, and that's the truth I want to. It's like, no, I'm taking it in, and let's see what truth of it can I find in me when I believe that. And that introspection, whatever it's called, I think it's of real good benefit and value, that it's a little lack in just in general. Or others take it to the extreme that they believe everyone's and everything, and not coming into conclusion of, but hey, but it's all of this that I tried all these clothes and everything, and now I'm like Matroshka, but not coming back to myself, like just owning all of that. So which is even, you know, another extreme.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like who am
That's
I? What do I really want?
yeah, it's
I
like
will
other
try this
people's
and this.
opinion became my identity, you know. That's one
Yeah,
extreme.
yeah.
And another is just to take everyone's opinions about me as if it would be mine, but just try them, knowing who I am in my core. Like that's like two
Mm.
different states of being that I think we're shifting from one to another, from, you know, loss of memory to remembering who we are, and then just out of this, everything else just sorts itself, or you know, or because like the theme and the topic of last days that I find myself, you know, expressing myself as like what is happening in my head on Facebook, just, you know, posts or wherever. And there is few things now like really alive, which is of course the fundamental for me, or the essential, which is remembering peace, that we are all remembering, and remembering I associate with like waking up state, that like, you know, I'm still sleepy, like I'm still drowsy, I'm a little sensitive, I'm not sure how to react to things. Should I be angry, should I be afraid, or should I just go in? Like that's the part of that we're going in as a society, I see, like now, especially with this spring more than ever, I sensed. And two things of it that is in the way that to my reality came as a tools, one of the first tools, and I'm really grateful for that, because I see that some of us who went to the spiritual path without these tools are a little bit lost. And this is the shadow concept of Carl Jung, and the mirror concept of that we are mirrors. Others are mirrors to me, so that when I'm unconscious, I'm still in the phase of remembering, that to have this tool, just to recognize that, oh, actually the anger that comes from in me about you, or the judgment that comes into me about you, that is actually your gift, your unwilling gift, or you know, for me to see and know myself, so that remembering could continue and be what's fulfilled or completed. So yeah, so this is, yeah.
Mm.
And attention, like also like these few things comes all together, so that attention is attracts it, where I put my attention invites to my being a informational field from what this attention is being cast at, and my energy, life force energy, goes there. So it doesn't matter, we're having this talk about like femininity or feminine, but in the beginning, the first note, before after chickens, of course, uh wait, was I lost my thought. Yeah, shadow, mirror, remembering, and attention. So that attention is that part, like, and now my attention is jumping from one place to another, and I think I must lost something, but when attention comes back to it, flow comes back. So that's the mechanism how attention works on anything. And it doesn't matter if we are male or female, we are all suffering, I will use the word, from this together, that because we are being so much distracted, that all the knowledge is being so much distorted, that this remembering became so difficult. Like it's a you know, it's like remembering a dream when your alarm is ringing, when TV is going, when someone is talking in the room, and the music is playing. So instead of going within and just disconnect from these things, I think what was COVID part, like the impulse thing for all of us to just have more of that luxury and necessity, and it's vital, so that we could put attention to things that really matters, or to things that is us, and then so that we see that our shadows, oh yeah, I don't like my neighbor, or I don't like this person or this boy or this girl because he or she is, no, because I have that peace in me, and I'm now recognizing it. And so yeah, so that's the piece that I think it doesn't matter what topic we'll take as a possible problem, or you know, or something to be solved, or how it used to be and now it's not. But that's the key thing, that what happened, we being disconnected from our roots, from our ancestry, from our memories. So we don't have reference point of or values or strength even, because when I tap with my attention with my ancestors, it's a different place when I tap with my attention to some I don't know, guru on TV or something. It's like I don't need to learn or read all these books, because this egregor or whatever, like, is connects. So what we are connecting with is now changing dramatically, and it doesn't matter who we are, you know, in what purposed avatars. So that's what I'm focusing on, to make clear that this message is quite complex, because there is cognitive dissonance in play, which is the ultimate thing, you know, and just I'm refining the piece of what I just said, and I could expand more, but what I just said, to make into like a compact thing that with any communication for mind that is still remembering, awakening, that is still, what the fuck, I don't know what to believe, I'm afraid, I want this, so that it would be clear, like, you know, this hypnosis sessions has suggestions, so that this would be just suggestion, that whatever will be communicating, or whatever you will be hearing, or whatever you will feel when you meet this person after this meeting, remember that the feelings you feel is because it's about you, it's not about that thing, and go deeper. And cognitive dissonance, if you feel anger just because someone says that opinion that is different, and you feel like your life is slipping under you know, under, how to say, the carpet slips under the feet, so it's just because it's a chance to grow, like the song says, you know, another fucking opportunity for growth. So yeah, so that's like my essence. I have little more pieces, but that's the essence of, you know, even any conversation, what could be focused on, and what tools should be refined and calibrated for, and just to, this process of remembering would be easing as much as possible by explaining just those simple, crucial few things, why something's happening, why I want to hate this man, why I want to hate this woman. Oh, there is part of conditioning. Okay, now I put it aside. What else is there? Is there a real hate? Am I hurt? Why am I hurt? Is there something from my past now coming up? Like, yeah. And yeah, and that's what's happening. And whatever we're doing, if we're doing something meaningful, I think that's related to only to that. And of course, body avatar, cleanliness, energy, vitality. Otherwise, everything follows.
I want to refine.
I need to go to the toilet. I will step to the toilet while you keep talking. See you in a minute.
Okay. I want to refine the word remembering. You said it, I think, in that thesis, it was the number one word, I think.
Yeah.
And I want to go deeper into that, not in any contradiction to what you say.
Yeah.
I want to support that, but to present it in another perspective, mm, maybe with some creativity, like remembering, it's like making members again, like a member and and in a way, it is remembering everyone into my being. As you said, everyone is a mirror of an aspect of myself.
But primary, it's this.
Yeah. Yet, in the reality we live in, we meet others, and in a way, this is reflections of me that a larger intelligence than my bubble is presenting to me as other people. So each person that come, I can remember into the membership of the I, of
Yeah.
who I really am. And this is a way that, of course, teaches empathy, because it allows to understand the person better. If But there is also a leap of faith in it, that we all share an essential motive that is the same. And I think love would be the best definition of it, because also the vagueness of the word.
Mm.
Um,
No, but if everything is love, so everything less is non-love. like
no, that's part of why love, because even partial aspect, like love that is not absolute, it's also love. It's just even fear. Why would I be afraid? It's because I love something so much that I don't want it to change. I'm afraid that it will, like, there is always at least a glimpse. And but it can go all the way to the absolute motivation of the absolute self. And I think that's part of the beauty of this word, as that. But it doesn't matter even how it is named. That can be philosophized or poetized about. Yet it's like some faith, some trust in that uh, wholeness I am part of, some leaning into that intelligence by recognizing each one as a member of I, which is therefore I remember this part within me and integrate it into a greater wholeness. And as you said, again, especially where I feel these triggers, and I think that the drama triangle is classic, like where I project one of these roles, or stereotypize myself into one of these roles.
mm,
There, it's the most needed healings for integration, for remembrance.
Mm.
But it's more like from the place of membership to come again. So it's there is the origin, which is whole and unified, and that split itself into many pieces. That is all
yeah.
the subjects that in existence,
Yeah,
and the
right,
remembrance of, in a
right.
way, God through us.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Like when you say it, how I see it is just, when you have like a puddle or a water, just, and you throw a stone,
Yeah.
and then the water goes outside for a moment before it comes back.
Mhm.
So it seems to me that, of course, it will be surrealistic, but it's like that when we came into this earth, at any
Mhm.
point, doesn't matter the details, we like that stone went into the water, but actually we all crashed into the water, as if, you know, like spread
Mhm.
with like magnet intention to return.
Mm.
And then somehow there is additional force that is keeping that puddle, you know, not coming together. And what comes to me even when I say that, that who is doing that, it's us ourselves, in the same way that the more we struggle, it's like, you know, when the waterfall and people fall in and you just have to surrender instead of struggle.
Mhm.
So I
The
think
more
like
ways, you know.
so that's how I got notion at some point about this reality, that the more we try to hold, to cling to something, that the more we will just be whirled until we drown.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Honeys, I have a beloved waiting for me on a call.
And we are over
Sorry,
and we're over 2 hours.
she was very, very patient, you know, with our technical bits. But yeah, now she is waiting for me
To be continued.
to be continued. Like,
Mhm.
It would be
yeah,
interesting
yeah.
to, if there is at least one viewer of this or last video, that next video could it be part of our Zoom talk and just expand on it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if not, I have at least one, probably two beings that I don't know if they even want to come, but that their input into all of this and balancing or adding to remembrance would amplify, because we're not doing this for ourselves, even if we are doing this for ourselves. It depends of how, what is self, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and just for everyday people that is still trying to remember as we do, that someone with really fresh and vital and, you know, empowered feminine energy.
We need
Well,
to conclude, beloveds, because she
yeah.
is waiting on the other side.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if there is a viewer on the previous one, but yeah, let's see what comes up. Invitation for comments. I'll put it on Facebook. On not Facebook, YouTube. Um, yeah, lovely to talk with you guys. And
Yeah.
So
until
lovely
next
to
time.
love you.
Sunny blessings from mountain.
Yeah, and chicken blessings and peacock blessings, and to our feminine and
all the peacocks and
masculine
cocks
and
and
the cocks
cock
and
holders and
the non-cocks and
It's the cock that is making pee. That is.
cockadoodle doo and
yeah.
love you. Bye, gorgeous
Bye bye.
one. From the holy to the holy. Aho. Bless.